Hello guys, and welcome to Tycoon Online 3, episode 23. As you guys can see, my company is still doing its usual struggle thing when the ticks are down ticks, quote unquote, and it's doing okay on upticks. Like as you can see, I'm approaching 1 billion in profit um, on upturns, but on downturns, I'm really struggling to make a good profit. And one of my commenters actually made a very helpful and informative comment, which I think kind of interesting. I'm going to look into deeper. Now, his first comment was, you should match the size of the plane to the size of the route. And that's a very true statement. I've not been doing that particularly well um, in this game. I usually do a good job, especially in Air Tycoon Online 2. I've just been taking a little bit longer to learn the limits of each aircraft in Air Tycoon Online 3. As you guys can see, in general, for my monopoly routes, I've actually done a decently well job of matching my planes to my routes. But I now have more competition routes than monopoly routes, which is, I know some of these competition routes are actually monopolies, but that's the first. And that's because every time I go to sleep and log on again, I gain about 100 or so competition routes, maybe more, maybe less, ever since a couple days ago, where I think the number 1, 3, and 4 player have all teamed up on me to overlap all my routes, which is pretty frustrating. Now, as you guys can see, some of the 747s, which the stopover legs are not on competition, are still making good money. For example, this one here, Birmingham to Chicago, is making, as intended, about 3.5K. Previously, what I had was I had each 747, when you add up the two halves of the stopover, making around 7K each. But the problem is now, because such a large percentage of my 747s are overlapped, I really think I have to start getting rid of some, specifically the ones that are losing money. And I can just probably move them to somewhere else or get rid of them altogether. I'm not sure what is the better course of action. If I go very far back into my reports, you guys can even see how well I was doing thanks to some of these 747s before they started getting overlapped. Um, Probably a long time ago now. I had even higher profit than I had now, despite me having almost 200 more aircraft, and that's around here, where you can see thanks to all my new 747s and all that, I was doing very, very well. Total net income of 11 point something million, and as you guys can see, I had a similar, if not higher, um, aircraft lease expense here then, and that's simply because I had more leased aircraft. Geez, I have 1.2. That's a lot of lease expense. Yeah, but basically, as you guys can see, um, I had an even higher lease expense then than I did now, meaning I had even more 747s, because the majority of my 747s were leased, and they helped me make an enormous amount of money. But that's no longer possible, basically thanks to all this overlapping and competition that's going on. So I think I should take, I think his name was something James or whatever. I should take his advice, and he told me to just put small, older aircraft um, on the competition routes. I guess that's just as a thing to not give up. I mean, they'll make next to no money, but that's not really important because each route affects my company very little at this stage of the game. So I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna continue to place DC 1030s and DC 1040s onto my DC 8 routes, and then place the DC 8s on 747 routes, and then use the 747s to place on existing DC 8 routes, which could use an upgrade because I don't really want to return them right away, because I think even if they're making a small, pretty poor percentage of money, if they're making money, that's good enough. You know what I mean? Um, Next thing he told me to do is to make mid to short range routes, and that's a good idea, but there's just one little problem with that idea, and that is, look at these cities. I'm not sure if he intends to, like, should I be competing to make these mid to short range routes? Um, I don't really think that's a great idea. Like, obviously, I could easily compete a 737 on a route like this, for example, and just destroy the other guy. Same with a route like this. Um, I could obviously, upgrade my aircraft and be more competitive in routes like this, but I don't think I really want to be opening competitive routes, just making my existing ones better. I do have a lot and a lot of short range routes, um, even mid range routes. Like, as you guys can see across the board, if there's a city, my hubs are connected basically. Same with Chicago. If there's a city, basically it's my hub is connected, with the one exception of I don't like to compete. And at this point in the game, I'm gonna really struggle to compete. And the reason for that is my profit is really low. So if I increase my service investment expense, I'm basically not profiting anymore. So I'm basically stalling out my company right now for future purposes, and I'm not sure if that's what I want to do. I'll basically be making whereas the profits along these lines. For example, this was an upturn. This was with 580,000 service investment expense, and these were the low ticks, like before I canceled it. So I'm not really sure if that's the best idea because I'll be making almost no money and I won't be able to buy new aircraft and play, but I will be able to compete better in the future. I think the easier way to compete is actually just to invest advertising in your hubs because it's more specific. In the hubs which are being competed with, for example, I'm being competed with on London. Um, what else? What other hub I'm being and Guangzhou right now quite heavily, and I think Los Angeles was next. So Los Angeles is my next hub being competed with. So I think I should invest in my hubs to increase the name value there and fight that way instead of using service because I think the service is too far gone and it's too expensive to catch back up because the service affects all routes. I know I have about two-thirds competition or one-third competition routes and two-thirds monopoly routes. But the competition routes in general are my slightly better routes. So, um, probably by increasing this, I could affect half my routes, while advertising in specific cities could have a larger effect. It affects slightly more of my cities, I feel like. Um, I'm not sure though. So that was another point that guy made was to match up the size of the planes with the size of my routes. And he told me that 800 is good enough for a DCA. I don't know if you meant in a stopover or not a stopover. So let me see if I can find any routes that are around 800 on a non-stopover. So Guangzhou is 800 by itself, which is a problem, right? Because I know I have some direct routes to Guangzhou. It's like Guangzhou to Belgrade, and that's a half of a stopover. So um, let me see if I can find any direct routes. So this is a direct route, and it's making 2.3K on a downturn. Um, so not quite the 3K you said, especially. So maybe you meant stopover routes, but maybe my pricing is wrong or something like that. But I know the satisfaction is god awful because it's a DCA at 62 and the plane is ancient and I have terrible service satisfaction thanks to my low investment. Investment is just so expensive. For a company with really low margins like mine at this point, I don't know how I can increase it without cutting off all my profit, basically. So, like, direct routes, as you can see, they're making okay money. Maybe it's because one of those airports actually is overflowing. Let me check. Um, because if one of those airports is overflowing, yeah, that um, it affects the profit very much. But it doesn't look like I don't see Prague or Guangzhou in my list of airports that are a little bit too full. I have to fix all of these. It'll actually make a big difference when I do. Ooh, Rome. Uh, oh gosh. Yeah, I opened Rome as a new hub yesterday, and I guess I completely forgot to increase the slots and counters. Oh god. So that means I spent an entire night with Rome making fractions of what it. Did my friend buy Rome? That guy's got credits, man. I mean, I don't blame him because he spends his own money and it's up to him. So that's pretty nice. He bought Rome. Uh, well, damn. Yeah, I have routes like this to Rome, and they're pretty good, and they have 10% satisfaction. So maybe when next turn when that the services fix themselves, I'll be making a little bit more. But yeah, anyways, the other thing you said is business numbers are preferred. because even though business and tour have roughly the same value, you get more business passengers. I think that's true. I think I've noticed that. Um, so yeah. Anyways, maybe it's time to get started on starting to replace some of my problematic planes, literally as an attempt to reduce loss instead of increase profit at this point. Um, oh, I'm also curious, how are some of my direct Boeing 747 SPs making? Like, this is like one of the worst routes I would make with a Boeing 747 SP, and yeah, that's not great. Um, that's a really low amount of profit, 3.7K. I guess that route was a little bit too bad to do direct on a plane like a Boeing 747 SP, but Chicago and Moulton is a little bit better, but I guess that route's not even old enough? No, it's just bad. Okay, so direct routes with the Boeing 747 SP are still a little bit too much. Um, they don't quite make as good profit as I was hoping. That's okay. So yeah, that's not quite as good as I was hoping for. Oh well. How's this one doing? Well, they're not doing bad necessarily, so I can't be too mad. But yeah, they could really be doing a little bit better. So I guess I'll stick to making Boeing 747 SP stopover routes. I'm just trying to learn in Air Tycoon Online 3 what are the limits of each aircraft and how much I should be trying to get. But as you can see, I am being overlapped all over the place, and where I am being overlapped, I'm being destroyed because they have high satisfaction and stuff like that, and I don't. So it's just so infinitely frustrating. I've never been targeted overlapped like this before in Air Tycoon. I don't think it's ever happened to me at this scale. So ooh, it's just so annoying. Like, should I really be deleting all these routes? Where am I gonna put all these planes? Like 300 or so competition routes. Like, where am I gonna put all these 747s? Should I just return them? Like, maybe. Like, oh my god, that sucks. Ah, what am I gonna do, guys? What am I gonna do? I don't know. I don't know. Hmm. I need some help. It's literally impossible to catch the first place guy now, by the way, that he's profiting like double me, if not more. So that guy's out of the picture. Fourth place is catching up, though I am catching up to the second place, which is surprising considering how bad my company is. But I am catching up to second place. Um, so maybe that's in the picture to just finish third because fourth will pass me. Um, I think this guy, and this guy are all overlapping my routes. So I'm gonna have a lot and a lot of trouble to do any better than now. I am still making more money per turn than this guy, and this guy, so I'm pretty safe from those. But it looks like third place is the finish I'm destined for at this point. Uh, but you know, if they continue their overlapping work on some of my other hubs, like ooh, look at Chicago even. Are they doing Chicago now too? No way. They're doing Chicago. Okay, well, I think they've literally looked at my routes, found all my hubs, and they're just going at it. And they're leaving only the worst routes left or available, like that are not competitioning. Without all this freaking competition, my company would look so unbelievably clean. That's so frustrating. I don't know what to do, guys. I'm really annoyed. Yep. Look at that. Just look at that. It's so sad. Um, what should I do with all those aircraft? Like, should I just put DC-8s on all the competition routes? I guess so. I guess so. So let's start with 747s, I guess. So let's sort this by competition. Let's sort by aircraft, and then let's sort by aircraft. Um, this way I can go into the 747 zone and find the 747s, which are competition on both legs. Now, which way is this organized? Budapest, Chicago, Chicago to Mass. Where's the city? Because I need to figure out which way are these stopovers going. Are the planes? Okay, I have to go to the top to find out, don't I? Maybe I have to, maybe it's this way. No, it's probably this way. Um, like, is this one aircraft, or is this like is from here to the route above? Like, are these two? You can't see what I'm doing, but okay, London to Panama, and then London to Daegu. So it looks like a route is the route and then the route above it. So this, for example, the next one is gonna be no. To Chihuahua. Okay, so it's the plane and then the one below it is one route. So okay, got it. So for example, this is a route which is just losing money. Let's put a DC-8 on it. All right. So I guess that's what we're gonna be doing. Um, I guess that means we're gonna need some DC-8s too. So let's open up some DC-8s. So yeah, most of my DC-8s appear to still be Monopoly. So I'm gonna go to my Monopoly routes. I'm gonna sort by aircraft. DC-8s. Uh, DC-8s. Yep. And if they're stopovers and they're in this page, they're probably good. So let's start replacing those with some DC aircraft. Now, for the first class, it takes forever to switch them manually prices, so I'm just gonna do a percent all. Like, I'm gonna use that little tool there to edit all my routes at once. Um, I'm basically gonna select monopolies and set the price to 1.3, and then turn by turn, fix that because it's just too annoying to try and manually finagle the price for every single plane replaced. It takes too long, basically. So yeah, I guess if I take advantage of my existing monopoly routes and just reduce losses on my non-competition routes, I guess that's actually a good way to do okay. Like, um, yeah, like, what are the kind of routes I can put 747s on? Should I be putting 747s on these mediocre routes, or should I be returning them? I feel like the right course of action would be to return these 747s because there's not really great places to put them. And if I do put them somewhere, like, I feel like they're gonna end up getting overlapped, which reduces the point of it. And let's look at these direct ones. None of them make 3K. Um, maybe it's just because of my poor satisfaction, but if I were to ever play Air Tycoon Online 3 again, I would start the game with 4 service satisfaction and just leave it there the whole game. Maybe even 5, just because I know it helps deal with competition really well now. The stopover DCS are still making around 3K, which is nice. Yeah, none of the direct ones seem to be making 3K. I'm wondering if that's just because of my satisfaction. Like, as you can see, this entire list of DC-8s is direct, and none of them get even close to that 3K mark. Yep. So back into the DC-8s. There's so few DC-8 routes, which are actually where'd they go? Frick, I lost them. How many 747s do I have, which are non-competition still? That's so sad. Like less than a page, basically, and they're all making shit money. Yeah, they're all making shit money actually. I guess that's because when I made these routes, the World Traveler Index was a lot higher. The World Traveler Index was about 3,200 to 3,300 when I made a lot of these routes. And now we're looking at a World Traveler Index that is like, what was it? Like 2,800 something. So like a good 4,000 lower. And I kind of designed my companies on a razor edge, meaning if the world is any worse, it sucks, and the world is a lot worse. So, oh well. Um, I guess that's what I get, and it's just it's just time to try and fix things up this way. Now, as you guys can see, basically I have such a low amount of stopover monopolies left. Like as you can see, I've replaced almost all of them, amazingly enough. Um, and the rest are all DCs already. Or oh, there's some more here. Okay, so I do have some more DC-8s to replace, but then the rest are already all larger aircraft. So that's my monopoly routes. This is my competition routes, which the amount of new competition routes I get every turn is super disheartening. But yeah. Oh well. Maybe I should be buying more DC-8s even. I don't know.